Can you imagine walking up a mountain, knowing you might have to sacrifice the very thing you love most? That's exactly where Abraham found himself, on the edge of obedience and heartbreak. But let me tell you, this story isn't just about a test of faith. It's about trust, surrender, and the God who sees the bigger picture when we can't. Abraham had been living in Beersheba, a place of promise and peace. God had blessed him with a son, Isaac, the child he and Sarah had waited for their entire lives. Isaac was more than just a son. He was the living proof of God's covenant, the answer to decades of prayers. But then God spoke.
Abraham, take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah. Offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you.
Genesis 22:2. Can you imagine what Abraham must have been thinking? God, this is the son you promised me, the son I waited for. How can you ask this of me? His heart must have been racing, his mind swirling with questions. But then, he got up early the next morning. Abraham didn't hesitate. He saddled his donkey, gathered wood for the offering, and set out with Isaac and 2 servants. The journey to Moriah took 3 days. 3 days of walking, 3 days of silence, 3 days of wondering, God, what are you doing? Abraham wasn't just walking to a mountain. He was walking through the deepest valley of his faith. Every step was a battle between doubt and trust. But then, they arrived.
Stay here with the donkey. The boy and I will go over there to worship, and then we will come back to you.
Genesis 22:5. Did you catch that? Abraham said, we will come back to you. He didn't know how, but he trusted God. Even in the face of the impossible, he believed God would provide. But then, Isaac asked the question that must have shattered Abraham's heart.
Father, the fire and the wood are here, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?
God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son.
Abraham's words were a declaration of faith, but his heart must have been breaking. Every step up that mountain was a step closer to the unthinkable. But then, they reached the top. Isaac must have felt the tension in the air. He didn't resist as Abraham bound him and laid him on the altar. Can you imagine the silence? The only sound was the wind and the crackle of the fire pot. Abraham raised the knife, his heart pounding, his mind screaming, God, I trust you. But then,
Abraham, Abraham, do not lay a hand on the boy. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son.
God provided, just as Abraham had said. A ram, tangled in the bushes, became the sacrifice instead of Isaac. Abraham named that place, "The Lord will provide." And to this day, it's a reminder that God sees, God knows, and God provides. Abraham's test of faith wasn't just about obedience, it was about trust. Trust that God's promises are true, even when the path doesn't make sense. Trust that He sees the bigger picture, even when we can't. And trust that He will always provide. And Abraham called the name of that place, "The Lord will provide," as it is said to this day, "On the mount of the Lord it shall be provided." So, what's your Mount Moriah? What's the thing God is asking you to trust Him with? Remember, He sees, He knows, and He will provide. If you have enjoyed this video and you want to watch more amazing Bible stories, feel free to click on the story shown to you on the screen now. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to be amongst the first to watch the next Bible story. And once again, stay blessed.